watching MLB, and I forget who it was. Preston Wilson was on, and I forget who the Cliff Floyd maybe, and they're saying there's four power teams in the American League right now. Four power teams. You got the Yankees, who, and there's another Jeter move,
Right.
and you can't tell me he didn't take care of his boys, given Giancarlo Stanton. If that's all they had to give up to get Giancarlo Stanton, and that was highway robbery. But you have the Yankees, you have my Red Sox, who are pretty good.
Yeah.
And, matter of fact, if David Price comes back and is the pitcher anywhere near where he used to be, they're going to be real good. And you have the Astros, and you have the Indians. The Indians, I think, a step down, and they lost a kid to the Phillies through free agency, and I think that's going to hurt them, but their pitching's pretty darn good.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about that.
When's the Angels going to make a move? Did they acquire the Japanese player?
They signed him, and
They're
they've
spending some money.
yeah they got the infielder from the Reds that hit a lot of home runs last year, shortstop, I
Yeah.
believe. They made some moves, and they got some players. If Pujols is healthy, and Mike Trout's going to do Mike Trout numbers anyway, so they're going to be better. Are they going to beat the Astros? Probably not, unless the Astros have some injuries. But the Cubs are the Cubs.
They are.
They signed Hugh Darvish, and that's the thing that amazes me. I mean, these guys get big money. What's his name? Samardzija with the Giants. He's a good pitcher, but you look at his record. I mean, we've had this talk before. Duff and I have talked about this before. Would you rather have a pitcher that's 18-5, 18 wins, 5 losses, but his ERA is almost 5? Or would you rather have a guy that's 9-12 or 13, but his ERA is right around 3? That he just doesn't get run support. I mean, it's stupid because I'm sorry, man. I want a guy that's winning games. You can have all the numbers you want. If you don't win,
Right.
What good are you?
Well, that's the big question right now. Is if you don't win, how good are you, and how come these other teams are downloading, such as the Marlins and the Pirates? They're both playing that nutting game of gutting. We might as well just call him gutting instead of nutting.
Yeah.
And where he just guts the team, throws it all out, and then looks to make a buck off the people coming through the door and say, hey, we're going to win again. Very difficult to be able to do and to handle and to stomach.
But you know what the big thing is now. A lot of teams are holding back, like the Phillies. The Phillies got a lot of money, but there's a lot of free agents on the market next year.
Which then comes to my mind right now. And I wanted to ask you guys about this. I mean, we're looking deep in this, but I'm watching these programs save and stock up some money, waiting for new prospects to come up, almost as if this year is a done deal. There was a feeding frenzy 2-3 years in a row. I mean, we had signings going on. Money was being shot out of cannons at people.
It was monopoly money.
And it was monopoly money. Most of it was just funny money out there floating around. But here we watch everybody pulling back. I'm not seeing that feeding frenzy. I'm not seeing a lot of the talent wanting to move around. And what I'm also seeing, something that has me really interested, Bob, I'm watching a lot of the West Coast teams really getting loaded up. I'm watching the East Coast teams and even some of the Central teams sitting on their hands, almost as though they're saving the money, they're waiting to spend it. Philly being a great example of it. The Pirates, good, God only knows what's happening there. We got the story of the Marlins going on. But what's going on at the West Coast? Like you're saying about the Angels, coming together on this and waiting to make a play on it. How come they'll go through phases like that? Is it fan base that drives that? Or is it the owners kind of having a competition with inside themselves?
They always told me a championship team's made up of players that have their best year in baseball all at the same time on the same team.
Right. We can look back 91 Reds. Cincinnati Reds had an insane team, 89, 90, 91. And they scored their best years. Exactly, Bob. I got you on that. All right.
I mean, this is what has to happen. I mean, the Dodgers, they don't even have to make a move. They're going to be there again.
Mm-hmm.
That's your big market teams. And when you refer to the Pittsburgh Pirates, please don't use the word rebuild.
I'm not.
The owners don't like that word.
Oh, they don't?
No. There's no such a thing in Pittsburgh as rebuilding.
I see.
They're going all out this year for a championship because then they traded their best pitcher. They traded I still think he had a couple years left, outfielder.
Mm-hmm.
And so please don't use the word rebuild.
I will not.
They went out and made a big signing last week with Daniel Nava. That guy's going to throw up monster numbers for him this year.
Yeah, monster numbers, all right. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
already hurt.
Yeah, monster numbers, all right. Monster numbers in medical bills and monster numbers in missed games. All kinds of monster numbers going up from him. We're going to shift gears here a little bit because right now, being in February, we got that strange little gap going to happen in sports again. Basketball is winding down. Season's done with the interplay with inside of the league. We're done with the OVAC play for the Potters here with high school basketball, and we're heading into sectionals and then into regional districts and moving forward with that. We got a game here, boys. February 27th, Potter Fieldhouse, 7:30 tip-off.
That's a first.
It's a first, isn't it, Bob?
Right.
How far back do we got to go? Last time Liverpool played in a sectional game in Liverpool.
Oh, you have to go back to the days of Memorial Auditorium
Wow.
when there was a different structure of the section.
Yeah, they used to not jumping in on Bob, but they used to move the sectionals around. They played at Wellsville one year. They played the term. When I played in high school, there was only 2 classes, and we played at the arena. But before then, probably in the 60s, Bob can attest to this
Right.
more because he'll remember this. But I knew they played the tournament at Wellsville one year. Everybody. I mean, they played. If there was 10 teams, they played. Everybody played at Wellsville. They played at I remember going to the tournament at DMA, seeing the games up there. I remember going to see in Wellsville. Toronto hosted the tournament. Everybody in the section had a chance at the tournament.
Why is that not the case now?
Your classes changed. That's all. And then they made a redistrict. The Ohio High School Athletic Association. When the numbers come up, you have like 3 or 4 different sections in your area.
Mm-hmm.
In the old days, you moved from East Liverpool would host one year, Wellsville, Toronto, Wintersville,
Right.
Steubenville.
and Steubenville Big Red.
Okay.
And the old gym, not the arena.
Yeah.
And then the day of the arena came, and then everything went to the arena.
Everybody went to the
because
arena to
of the
play.
Parking and seating and so forth.
I see. So more of a fan type of a thing going on. Who can accommodate the most people to be able to
Well, it
see
was
the
kind
game?
of a neutral court too.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I think Central early played their games there, but Steubenville still played at the high school.
Okay.
Big Red did. So it was kind of like a neutral facility, and they were able to handle, like Bob said, handle the parking and handle the crowds. And
So what does the Ohio Athletic Association do to protect the quote unquote home court advantage? Like a sectional, Liverpool's going to play at Liverpool. Zanesville will play at Zanesville. What do they do to ensure that doesn't happen?
Oh, they play at St. Clairsville in the Ohio
Yeah.
University.
Well, yeah, that's down the line as they move forward with
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
what do they do as far as the officiating and to make sure that someone's not going to cook up something to their advantage?
well, they have a a system in line to rate officials, and those people get tournament games, and the higher rated officials, and they'll move it around. I mean, they're not worrying about teams traveling, and they don't worry about officials traveling. You'll have people doing games up here. You may see that are from New Philadelphia when Liverpool and Beaver Local play. They may have people from New Philly doing that game, and you're going to go to Zanesville, and they may have people from the other end of the Eastern District. So you're not going to get a guy from Zanesville doing the game down there. You're not going to get guys from Liverpool doing the game here.
Right.
And it's it's really not fair. I mean, you can get some neutral officials, and that's just the way they work things. And
Sure.
now with the High School Athletic Association, didn't get a chance to talk to Bob about this the other day. We were talking some sports, but did you see the new proposal by the High School Athletic Association about the transfer rule?
Was that under Garfield in the newspaper? Yeah.
No, I didn't see that part. But anyway,
That's the only part I read is Garfield in the
I
comics.
got you, in the comics.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Akron Garfield.
No,
or
there's a lot of
Garfield
pictures
Heights.
there.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the new proposal that the schools are going to vote on, the principals are going to vote on here in March on the transfer rule. Like now, if you transfer schools, like if a kid from Wellsville comes up here and goes to Liverpool next year,
Right.
football, he's got to sit out the first 5 games.
Okay.
Basketball, you got to sit out the first 11. You got to sit out half the season, okay? Next year,
Is that following when you transfer in, or
Yeah.
is that the season that you transfer in?
no, the fall in the next, like if a kid comes here in the spring and
Yep.
he's going to play football next year,
5
has to
games.
sit out 5 games.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now the proposal is this: if you transfer schools, the game still is in effect, but it's not at the first of the year. Now you got to sit the last 11 games in the tournament. You're eligible to come in and play. You can play those first 11 games in basketball, but the next 11 you're sitting plus the postseason. That's the proposal.
Wow.
It
What good is that to
Yeah.
the team? How's that
doesn't do
gonna help
anything for the team, but it's going to keep people from going out and recruiting.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
that's
it
the
will-
thing. You're bringing in good people, and you can win your first 11 games, and all of a sudden, this guy's averaging 25 points a game, and he's a stud. Now his last 11 in the tournament, he can't play.
You're right.
So
How's this affect the Catholic schools?
same thing. They got the same. You know, you get a kid that transfers in that's not in their parish. You know, they have that. It's the same scenario. You transfer, you sit
Wow. That's an interesting thing. They vote on that next week
in March.
in March.
Yeah, but I think it's like the week before the state tournament.
Week before states.
Yeah, because they'll have a big thing about it in the Columbus paper.
Okay.
When we're down there for the tournament.
All right. So basketball's winding up. Beaver Local's going to be here, and that game, Liverpool's been on a skid. They couldn't quite plug things together here the last couple games. They're coming out against Beaver Local. They beat them here, big. What's going to happen?
Depends on what team shows up. Or are we ready to pack it in and get ready for baseball season and track season, or our kids want to move on?
Okay.
I mean, it's always good to it gives you an extra week or two of practice, and you get we have young kids and they need to play. And I think right now, after watching the last 3 or 4 games I've seen with the Potters, is they need some confidence. They're dragging a little bit. They hit the wall. It's the end of the season. You're playing young kids. You're going from playing in the middle school. You're playing 12, 14 games. Now you're playing 22 or 23, and it's like you hit the wall.
Right.
And you just hope that they're not ready to pack it in, and they'll come out and play it. And the fact that they beat Beaver Local twice, I know I hear that old adage, and I don't know how Bob feels about this, but it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I don't buy that. You beat them twice, you can beat them a third time.
I think it's almost on your shoulders. Bob, what do you feel about that?
What I don't understand is we're playing our sectional game here. We have to go to sectional finals. We have to go to Zanesville. Why can't Zanesville come here?
Higher seed. If we had had the better record, they would have played up here.
Higher seed.
Higher seed, yeah.
So they would have moved here on that
They
game.
would have came here if we would have had the higher seed. I think a lot of people made a misconception about Zanesville. Their record is not as good as Indian Valley, and I think Meadowbrook maybe, and somebody else. I think they're 15-5 right now, or 16-5. But you look at the people they played.
Yeah.
And I mean they've played pretty good people. They beat Meadowbrook last night. Meadowbrook's lost, I think, 3 or 4 games this year. And Zanesville beat them twice. Beat them last night at Meadowbrook by 2, and a couple weeks ago they beat them at Zanesville in overtime. So Meadowbrook's definitely capable. They won the OVAC in their class, and but Zanesville's played a predominantly D1, D2 schedule and pretty good people. They played Hilliard Bradley last Saturday, lost by 4, and I see the paper today. Bradley's in the top 10 in Division 1. So
They can bring it.
yeah, they're pretty good.
There
they're
you go.
Pretty good.
So as long as we get that team out there that we've watched in the first part of the season, a lot of hustle, a lot of motivation. Isaiah Browning owning those boards and getting in there for the offensive rebound like he did the first couple games coming out of the gate. Potters stand a chance. Put it up early and keep that lead and push it all the way through and walk out here with a section win. Then we'll head to Zanesville if we are able to win against Beaver Local. We'll head there for that game and find out what's going to happen down there at Zanesville for the Potters in the basketball action. That's all next Tuesday night, and we'll be on the air on the following Wednesday to catch you up on the action of that game, and you'll be able to see all the video action of that on PNN on our YouTube channel on that very next afternoon. And we'll have that posted up there for that.
I understand that's a 7 o'clock game. Of course, there's no JV game in
Right.
the tournaments.
So straightforward game, and different set of rules, different things happening. Things can't take place that normally takes place during the season. And I enjoy that. It's for basketball, and that's what's going on is basketball. Allow the kids to cheer, and hoping the stands are packed for both the teams. It's a great atmosphere, and it's a fun time to get to watch the kids play and to get to have some magic moments.
Yeah, it's a good time. I mean, the tournament is a good time of the year. I mean, you're getting close to spring. It's staying lighter longer.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to games, and people are excited. And I know a wise guy once told me when I was coaching many years ago. I was at Wellsville, and we were playing River Local in the championship game, sectional championship game. Dick Potts was coaching at River, and he was kind of like a legend. And I think Bob remembers him or not. You remember Dick Potts?
I remember the name, yeah.
Won over 600 games. His last game of the year happened to be at Steubenville in the sectional game against me at Wellsville. He told me before the game because he was real good friends with my high school coach, and he knew me. I'd met him before, and we been to a couple clinics. And he said, "You know what, John?" He said, "Regardless of what happens tonight, you're going to be a happy camper." And I looked at him and I said, "Posse," I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Trust me on this." He said, "Regardless of what happens tonight, you're going to be a happy camper. If you win, you're going to go back to Wellsville on your bus. You're going to get off the bus. You're going to have all the people there waiting for you, screaming and yelling, telling you're the best thing since sliced bread. They're going to take you out, buy you a cocktail or buy you dinner, and you're going to be the best thing going. And then you're going to come back into practice the next day and get ready for the districts." I said, "Okay, good. So what happens if you lose?" He said, "You don't got to put up with this anymore. You go home. Tomorrow you collect the equipment and you forget about these guys for 6 months." So, he made sense, and, like I said.
Kept you a little bit loose in the coaching.
Yeah, he did. And we won the game. So that made it even better. So.
And the celebration continued at Wellsville when you got home.
And it was his last game. His last game as a high school coach, and like I said, he won over 600 games. And
that's an amazing feat
probably
right there.
my claim to fame in coaching.
There
25, 26 years of coaching, and I got a chance to play him in the last game of his career, and we were fortunate enough to win the game.
That's fantastic. With the basketball wrapping up with that, and we forget about it, we're already moving into the baseball practices and everything. Liverpool looks to be returning a pretty good team coming out onto the diamond. We got a younger team, but we've got some of these varsity players that played all 4 years coming up. This will be their 4th year out there on the diamond. We got some players that are showing a lot of moxie, a lot of grit. They've been at it all year. Cameron Klakos is going to be returning back in the catcher role. We'll have Logan Torma throwing the heat again from the mound, as well as a few other pitchers that'll be coming into play. Bob, when we talk about Liverpool baseball and everything and where they play, what's a key to their success this year?
Just being able to play games. I remember in high school.
That helps.
The weather around here is not suitable. You're late March and April, and you're too many rainouts. What you try to do is schedule a game about every day. Is that right, John?
Yeah.
And play when the sun's shining. That's all. I mean,
make sure the games get in.
Going way back to my days in high school, we only played like 5 games until the tournament started.
It's kind of hard to get a read on how good you are or how bad you are in 5 games.
You're in the sectional tournaments, and here down in Cincinnati, where it's further south, the weather's a little better. They've already played 30 games.
Right.
So it's kind of an uneven playing field when it comes to baseball around here.
It always makes it interesting with baseball and track. Your first couple matches are usually done in the snow.
Yeah, well, track, you don't have that problem of a lot of cancellations. But, I don't know. Duff will probably after we leave the studio here, you look out over the side. I think the fact that they put the grass in the infield at the baseball field,
Very excited about that.
I think that's going to help. I really do.
Hats
I think
off to our maintenance staff here at East River Park School and the building and grounds, but also to our landscaping program.
Exactly.
They worked together on reseeding that infield and also worked together in getting the lines and everything established. They'll be cutting out those lines. It's a grass infield that'll be back for the first time in that field, and I don't even know how long. I know it started with a grass infield.
I think you're right
and
there. And I'd forgotten all about that.
3 to 4 years later, they cut that infield out and made it a dirt infield, and we continued to play baseball
Is
there.
that what that was? Was dirt?
They called it dirt because it was brown, but if you ever had to slide in it, you're convinced it's just gravel that was painted brown.
Gravel and sand.
That's a strange situation. They took the grass off at Thompson Park for the girls, put the grass on for the boys, and
I was
high
guaranteed
school.
it wasn't the same grass. They didn't move the same grass, but it's a good thing that they got that thing all ironed out. And switching gears over to the softball team being held up with a new coach. Kathy Joe is taking over down there at the helm of our softball squad. She also happens to be our treasurer here at East Liverpool City School District. So it's going to be an interesting a thing to have someone of the administration level being a coach at the same time. It's pretty interesting. I don't think that's ever happened before.
She shouldn't want for anything.
I think they got some checks and balances in on that, but yeah, there's an inside thing on being able to get some equipment. But I know Kathy Joe, she'll have it all in line. I know got some great assistant coaches coming in, some folks that have been around a lot of tournament ball. We have a few of the girls that have done some traveling league. They're coming back into the squad. They showed an impressive year last year, some pretty solid softball. JB, we have talked extensively about youth baseball affecting the high school league and level of play around here. That we just really can't compete with the bigger towns and the cities that have a very well-groomed youth baseball program. Field of Dreams got built, opened just a few years ago, been well attended. What can happen to build softball programs in our area to be competitive statewide, not just within our leagues, but also statewide? Because I watch what feels to be a good team go out there, and they hit these other teams from Southern Ohio or from some of the larger cities. They can't hold a candle to the level of play that's going on out there.
You're talking softball?
I'm talking softball. What could be done around here to bring up the level of play and experience of these girls coming into the programs?
That's one of my favorite things is because I take care of a lot of leagues with umpiring and stuff, and that's one of the frustrating things is when you're seeing kids at a younger level, trying to compete, and believe me, I'm not, because it's a business for me, but I go out and watch, and kids get up there and they have kids pitching at 10 and 12 years old that are trying to throw strikes, and you're basically giving them strikes. Kids are getting up and walking, and they do have a kind of like a limit on you can score only 5 runs in an inning, and then you got to come in. But when you're scoring the 5 runs and you're scoring them because 7 or 8 of the girls are walking every inning,
Yeah.
it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you get people that have been around softball and know softball, and that's the biggest thing is get pitching, is get your pitching, and if you have a pitcher, you can overcome a lot of adversities. I'm not saying you're going to be a state contender, but takes care of a lot of problems. If you have somebody that can throw strikes, that helps. And softball, you get away. You don't need 5 or 6 players. If you have a pitcher and a catcher, usually a shortstop and a center fielder, you can win games.
So if Bob and I have a lot of money to invest, do we invest in an indoor sports bubble that some of these larger cities have where softball can be played throughout the winter?
Well, there are a couple of those around here. I know the gentleman out at East Palestine, Jimmy Vance, he's contacted me. I'm going to take care. They're going to have travel tournaments, for 6 weeks in the summer. And he's got an indoor facility, for boys and girls, that you can go out. And I know I talked to the coach at Wellsville a couple weeks ago. They got a new batting cage in the gym. I was refereeing basketball down there, and it had just arrived. And she said they've been going out there and working out 2 days a week. You know, taking infield, taking batting practice. You know, pitchers. You know, have a place to throw from a mound. And in softball, you really don't need the mound; it's flat. So, but they have the measurements down, and you know, so it helps. And anytime you have an indoor facility and you can get inside, the more you work, the better you're going to get. That's
exactly, the more experience that you have.
That's it.
So, Duff, back in the day, and even in my childhood, there were baseball games being played on every street corner. It seemed like. I mean, that was the only place we had to play in East End was an actual street corner. I did see the world's longest home run ever hit. I mean, Babe Ruth can't hold a candle to this one. I watched one of the guys in my neighborhood hit a ball straight into an open boxcar. Never hit the ground. So as far as I know, it still might be traveling the earth. I don't know. It might have circumnavigated the earth now in that boxcar.
That's the same story I heard. The boxcar ended up in Arndale. And they still say it's the longest home run.
I'm sure it
Did
did.
you hit it, Duff?
Bob Boston.
Bob Boston hit it. I thought you hit it.
There you go. So
You were on base when it was hit, right?
Right.
yeah, he's base runner.
Well, I understand. We don't have a feeder system here for softball.
Right.
There's no other leagues. There's no middle school softball. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Middle Beaver has a program. Wellsville has a summer program. So if Liverpool kids want to play, they have to go to one of those two play, or you can go across the river to Oak Glen. They
Right.
have a summer program.
Okay.
That's
So
for softball.
for softball, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Middle Beaver, they have those fields out there where the high school used to play, and they put a lot of money into them, and they've done a pretty good job.
So here comes a question of contention, and we're in our last just couple minutes here, so I don't want to go too deep with it, but I got to ask the question right now. Your feelings of a coach of Little League baseball or softball, is it about winning that league championship by stocking your team with the best kids, or is it truly about teaching them the basics and the fundamentals of playing baseball in a competitive sport so that you will win some and you'll lose some?
I say it's teaching. I've seen coaches that winning is the only thing.
Yeah.
But I experienced it. I coached Little League several years, but I just want to teach the kids the proper fundamentals of the game, and how much fun you could have playing baseball. It wasn't all about winning.
Right.
That's the way I looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
And and Bob can attest to this. I know when I was in Wellsville, we had a little league, we had a minor league, and then we had Babe Ruth. Up here, they had little league and pony league, right, Bob? You guys didn't have Babe Ruth, but anyway, they played at Dixonville.
Right.
You had 4 or 5 teams in the area that played there, played out behind the old Beaver Local Middle School.
Right.
They had 3 or 4 teams that played out there. Wellsville had Hammond Park. We had I think 3 or 4 Babe Ruth teams, but now you're lucky if you can field a team. I
Yes.
mean, people I work for, they're telling me, well, we're only going to have one 10, 12-year-old team. Heck, when we were growing up, they used to have 5 or 6, 8 teams playing.
Exactly.
At that level. And they didn't have 8 or 9 kids they had to go out and scrounge. They had 12 to 15 men rosters that they could, they had teams, and you didn't have teams. I don't know. I think the fact that they play so early, that they try to get the young kids playing so early, so they can get ready. And I'm not knocking any other sport, believe me.
I got
but
you.
These guys all got this little league football and everything else, so they're starting little league games and minor league games. At the end of April 20th, I think I got one of my leagues that I work for is telling me that's their start date.
So that they're able to accommodate the kids to play football because that's starting in
They'll
August.
be done the end of June. So then you got football starting the 1st of July, the middle of July, because they start in the end of August. And I don't know. I think I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think if you wait till the end of May, when high school season's over,
right,
and you start the middle of May, the weather gets to be a little bit better, a little bit warmer, and you play 10, 15 games, and if you want to pick the best kids and then go play in all-star tournaments, go play in all-star tournaments. But the fact that playing early, man, it stinks. I think that I think you're defeating the purpose, and I just don't see it being conducive to having a successful program.
Right. It's going to just be one of those things.
Here's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Who has the successful programs around here? Who would you say are the best baseball programs in this area, Bob?
Or Toronto.
Toronto be one.
Mm-hmm.
Who else?
They have facilities down there. Very good.
Okay, who else?
That's about the only one I can think of.
Steubenville,
Well, Steubenville,
Big
Big
Red,
Red,
yeah.
yeah, going
Yeah.
that far down.
Edison.
Sure. Edison.
Okay, and they've all been to the state tournament in the last 5 or 6 years. All of them have been to the state tournament. And why? Because they have a Legion team.
Right.
And when's Legion baseball start? The 1st of June.
That's it.
The 1st of June. So the numbers are there. And, now it's starting to take its toll a little bit because, you got 3 teams within a 5-mile radius. And,
Right.
they're all, trying to dig because it's important to them. And I mean,
Right.
you go to Toronto on a summer night and go down at 5:30, 6 o'clock and watch a Legion game, and so many people are there, just sitting in those bleachers, and they play the music over the PA system in between innings.
Right.
It's
Just having fun.
yeah, exactly.
I think it all goes down to that community pride, being able to provide that, and maybe the Field of Dreams out there is going to be able to accommodate Legion ball in the days of the future as we move forward. Because I think one of the teams is big. One of the fields are big enough to accommodate Legion ball out there, and maybe we'll be able to bring that back. Gentlemen, we've run ourselves right out of time again. As Bob once told me, it's been nice listening to you, John. And
Yes, again.
again. Hey, this has been Talking Sports with Duff and with the Doctor of Knowledge, and that is none other than JB, Professor Bobolic. Guys, thanks again for coming up. Thank you, folks, for listening and watching here today on PNN. We'll be back next week on Wednesday to bring you another half hour of Talking Sports and bringing you all the update action about what happened in the sectionals and what happens in the next step, moving towards state basketball playoffs.
You're getting close to March Madness too.
And we'll be getting close to that, too, so get the bracketology books out. Thanks again, folks. You've been listening to PNN. We'll get back to you next week.